Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Mohammed Ghazali from IGL Services, Malaysia. So he's going to talk on the topic process safety management, a primer.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. This is a very cozy presentation. Only a few people here. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir, but hopefully there are more people online. This will be a quick presentation, mostly towards the questions if you have them, and allow the next speaker to be on time. So, what I'll present today would be So what I want to do today is introduction to PSM, Process Safety Management. Talk a bit about what PSM is. Give you a few examples about how PSM is implemented in the industry, and then thoughts and then opportunities for you to ask questions about what PSM is. I didn't put a microphone back. There it is. Okay. So introductions, quickly, we are IGL Services in Berhad. I know there is a big local company called IGL. I think it's India Gas Limited. We are definitely not associated with that IGL. So we do safety management, measurement allocation. If you want any information, you can come contact us. So process safety management, what is it? I had a look on the internet. In India, you don't have regulations that related specifically to process safety management. You might have bits and pieces of process safety management in your industry, but not PSM as per the US. So all of this might be new to you. If you have always been in academia, this will definitely be new. But when your projects grow up, your projects start being big, you have lots of inventory, then perhaps you can consider PSM as part of your operations. Okay, I'll give a definition of what PSM is, the purpose of PSM, and the pillars of PSM. So what is PSM? There is a legal definition. Okay. There is a legal definition of PSM. The usual document that we use for process safety management is the US OSHA 3132. It is a publicly available document. It is built for all industries, large sizes, small sizes. So if you need background information, you can go to the OSHA 3132. So it is an analytical tool focused on preventing releases of any substance defined as a highly hazardous chemical. So it has to be highly hazardous. So it is related to the purpose for preventing or minimizing the consequences of catastrophic releases of toxic, reactive, flammable, explosive chemicals. So if you are familiar with risk, you know risk is likelihood plus consequences. So this is trying to get you to prevent the consequences which are very high and have very low likelihood. The previous speaker gave you examples. For examples, you have Bhopal, you have Texas City Refinery, oil and gas industry, we have Alpha, and then all that. I don't know whether you learned whether you did that now, but that is those are considered things we could fall under. Yes. So you have your definition of what PSM is and the purpose of what it's trying to do. However, you can use the principles of PSM at any level. It's whether it's worth the bang for the buck. It takes effort to implement PSM, and depending on your risk, just might not be worth the effort. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So these are the pillars as defined in the OSHA. So we have 14 pillars here. I'm not going to go through all of them in great and gory detail. However, if you have never seen them, maybe we'll talk about them quickly. Process safety information, I will go to that in a bit detail later, what that entails. Process hazard analysis, that would involve your tools. Process hazard analysis would identify hazards involving hazardous chemicals, if you're familiar with HAZOP, HIRAC, any other risk assessment, that would be process analysis. Operating procedures, you ladies and gentlemen might be familiar with the process, but at some point you will be supervising people who aren't. You have to write operating procedures. As part of the operating procedures, you have to make sure that safety considerations are included in that. Employee participation, no point talking about PSM here in this room. The employees don't know what it is, are not interested. So you need to get your employees engaged as well. You cannot tell your employees what PSM is and then expect, then you give them uniform and send them to the field. You need to train them. So part of your training is to make sure that the safety issues with respect to process safety management are provided to your employees. Actually, it's provided to your whole workforce, but it's management down to the I don't know what's workforce to the storeman, even the cleaners who happen to have to work around your chemical. Okay? And then in this world of just in time, you have contractors. Do not forget them. They would like to go home with 10 fingers and 10 toes as well. So if you have a PSM system, they must be familiar with it and integrated into it as well. Okay. Before you start up your plan or you start up the experiment, you need to make sure the experiment is safe, the plan is safe before you start up. Hence, you have a pre-startup safety review. You build your equipment, you build your when you design equipment, talk about design just now, we're talking about releases in the previous speaker, but you must make sure your equipment has mechanical integrity. In basic terms, that means whatever is supposed to be inside your piping stays inside your piping, and whatever is supposed to be outside your piping stays outside your piping. If you're familiar with vacuum systems, you can get air ingress into something flammable, and then you end up with a flammable mixture that you don't want. On the other hand, you don't want to get your toxic chemicals out into the open, but they can affect your plant operators, they can affect your the surroundings and all that. Hot work permit, if you're familiar with it, that's fine. Management of change. If you look into the industry, most of our accidents end up when people change things, but they don't change it systematically. Records are not available. The next shift doesn't know what the previous shift is, so we need to manage your changes. Unfortunately, things happen. So when things happen, we need to investigate why it is. I think that's part of research, that's part of education. We need to do incident investigation in such a way that we take away learning and understand why something has failed and how we can improve the process. Stuff happens, people start running all over the place. We don't know which way to run. For example, this room, I noticed that there is no emergency exit sign. So, emergency planning and response. Has everybody here been briefed? Which way do you go? Do you go to the front? Do you go to the back? Do you go to the deer? Do you follow the monkey out? So, emergency planning and response has to be done. Even in a lab, when you go to a lab and you see there's no emergency exit sign, I would exit the lab and kindly write to your supervisor. Compliance audits, yes. You do something, you have to check you're compliant to it or not. Unfortunately, you have an audit. Safety-wise, all these are respect to safety. This presentation is not concerned with making money. This presentation is not concerned about getting accurate results. Compliance audits make sure that you do what you say. And if you don't do what you say, it finds out what you do. And trade secrets. You all will become big boys and girls. You have your trade secrets, which you want to keep secret, you want to make money from it, that's fine. But if you have to sell it, license it to a license it to your clients. Make sure your clients know the PSM aspects of your design. If you have mixture number 1, you don't tell them, but if it mixes with water and it creates a toxic chemical, please tell them. So, the pillars of process safety management, all of this is in the OSHA 3132. If you don't remember anything else from this presentation, OSHA 3132 US. So, I have two, so I'm going to take examples of PSM implementation. I've taken 2 pillars, but here I put down 2 pillars, but I don't think I have enough time. I've got 1 pillar here, PSI, process safety information. We'll see how this one works and then understand a bit more of how we implement this in industry. Okay, so PSI, examples of information pertaining to the hazards of highly hazardous chemicals, technology of the process, equipment of the process. So you're familiar with your safety data sheets. Okay, that's something you're familiar with. That is process safety information. If you're chemical engineers, you have your PIN IDs, you have your PIN IDs, you have the process description, you have the safety devices, and then you have the So chemical highly typo. Chemical highly hazardous material. So you need to know what these chemicals are. Sorry, you need to know what their safety properties are. Again, this is not about chemical reactions. You spend 2 days talking about material design, talking about optimization, talking about machine learning. We just want to know whether the stuff kills you or not, and how does it kill you. And if you are exposed to it, how do you stop it from killing? Technology, this is in case you need to do, it's part of design and in case of recovery. So you need a block flow diagram. Is this way, process chemical, maximum intended inventory. Make sure you know how much you have. Above a certain threshold, you might have to report it to authorities. Safety upper limits, temperature, pressure, flow composition. So you know if your operation is going outside the safety limits. And evaluation of consequences of deviations, which means that if things go out of whack, you know what's going to happen. Equipment, materials of construction, PIN ID, electrical classification, relief system design, and they've got all that. And all this information must be managed and kept up to date. Okay, so implementation, different levels as per any hierarchy. Different people in your organization have different responsibilities, different level of understanding. You have your technologists, you have your technician, you have your managers, you have your engineers, you have your cleaners, you have your drivers. If you're in an academic situation, you have your your undergrads, your postgrad docs, your graduates, your teaching assistants, your head of departments, and all that. So each person, different pay grade, different responsibility. So here's an example of how we implement process safety information, pillar in industry. For example, management has to provide the PSI systems, for example, document control, trafficking systems, and business support. Document that equipment complies with recognized and generally accepted good engine practices. RAGAG. That's a good initial for you to remember. That's from OSHA as well. And then operationalize requirements. So management must give you the tools, must give you the framework, the skeleton for you to run PSI. They take responsibility to make sure that you actually comply with the PSI requirements. And then they must be responsible for taking whatever theory, whatever documents you have, and then actually feeding it to your workforce. That's what you call operationalize. Okay. So that's the management. Frontline supervisor, let's start at the bottom, technician, person on the field. Things blow up, he's the person next to the equipment. So update PSI after approved changes. That again, you notice that links back to MOC, management of change. So all these pillars interact with each other, they cannot stand by themselves. So if there is a change, for example, you change the process, you change equipment, your control systems change, then you have to update the PSI and then participate in periodic PSI activities to make sure that there is no creep, there has not been unintended changes in the system. Operations can be creative, and sometimes they put in things which individually they don't seem to make a change, but together they could have changed the system dramatically. And frontline supervisors, their responsibility is taking care of the people below them, educate the subordinates in PSI management, and then they manage the statistics so that they can report up to management. Each person different responsibility. Okay. And I think I just had enough time for that. So final thoughts. So PSM was meant for was meant to prevent accidents which had high consequences, low probability. We can actually apply PSM principles other than chemical engineering, but whether it's worth your time, whether it's worth reducing the risk. For example, I'm going to do, there is a company, energy company that would like to implement PSM principles. It's energy, as in literally turbines and steam. So they would like to do that. What else was there? And again, OSHA 3132. If you get lost, you can do that. And I also noticed in your adverts, there are requirements in India for process safety managers. So this is still a field which is growing, and hopefully we learn without spilling too much blood in the process. And that is my presentation. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Any questions from the audience?
Too much?
Any questions? Yeah, please.
So go to your slide where you are showing the list of things you will have to take care of.
Which one?
And other things were there.
The table or the pillars?
Yeah, pillars.
Yeah.
Is it like all the whatever you have listed, is it from the organizational perspective? All the things the organization has to take care, or it's on the individual or human workers there also?
This is actually short answer. It's the organization, because this is process safety management. It's like QA QC.
So what we are saying is like, let's say take training. So the organization is putting pressure on the human or to train themselves for the whatever the process is going on, but they don't know even that whether that person can handle the complex process or not. So it is like just putting burden on someone that he cannot be carry.
Understood. Yeah, but then it's still up to the organization to make sure that their it's up to the organization to make sure that their staff is competent for the work.
So if something happens, let's say some error happens because of that worker, so it's the worker to blame or that organization to blame. Most of the newsletters will blame that worker, but the main reason will be the organization. So it's the problem in the industry that the organization is not accountable, only the worker is accountable.
I would disagree. For the big ones, it tends to be that the organization has a systematic failure, where the organization will expect training or like in Bhopal is that one was like that one, if you look back, it's still organizational failure. Even though it could be individual making decision, but if they weren't trained to make the decision, if they were the wrong people to make the decision, they didn't know what was happening. Contractors were just told to go in and didn't know what the chemicals were. I mean, Texas City disaster. That one was the contractors were in a office next to the site of explosion on a different project. Contractors. So it's unfortunate that organizations have a tendency to push the limits. But as for PSM type disasters, it tends to be the organization. I will look at the mechanical. You can look at the root cause. If you look at all of Trevor Kletz's books, he studies the classic ones. That would be Bhopal, Piper Alpha, Cerveso. If you're chemical engineers, know what Cerveso is, and I remember the last one, something as UK, which does that answer your question? Yeah.
One small question from my side. So one is how much additional cost would this have for the company compared to their operation? Because training, compliance audits, all these will be, there's cost involved in all this. So, and which type of companies would you require all these points? Which type of industry you may kind of like have a subset of these things?
In the US, it is the company that has In the US, there's a company that has highly hazardous chemical above a certain quality. So this is a license to operate. So the cost of it is just cost of doing business. Whether other companies want to implement it, which are not under this category, it is sometimes also the cost of doing business. So nowadays everybody wants to be environmentally friendly, right? Releasing toxic chemicals in accident all over eastern India is not really a good thing for the ocean, no? So there is a cost, yes, but I think now it has become just if you are a responsible company, it's cost of business.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.